Okay, so the directions on this would say list the elements of the set O. And it says O is equal to the set of numbers, that's what the brackets mean, the set of numbers for Y. And this line means such that, and then, so the part of all of this that we needed was just what starts after this line. It says Y is an integer, which is like saying a whole number. It's not really technically in math definitions a whole number, but it's for the person who's not the mathematicians, it's the numbers that you would think of as whole numbers, meaning an integer is any number that doesn't have a fraction or a decimal. So it could be -7, it could be +2, it could be 0, any number like that. So it says Y has to be a number that's not a fraction or decimal, and Y has to meet these criteria. And you can actually break this into two sets to look at it. We have, it's saying Y is going to be bigger than -2, or we could say -2 is smaller than Y, because tiny point always goes towards tiny number, or small point goes towards the smallest number. And then we can rewrite that Y with the 1. We can say Y has to be smaller than or equal to 1. So all the values for Y have to meet both conditions. So if I go to the number line and I look at the -2, Y has to be bigger than -2. So it can't include -2, so we'd say you can start here, but you can't include it. And we would point to every number in this direction. If that's the only thing we were looking for, that would be the answer. We wouldn't be able to list the elements of it because there would be an infinite number of numbers to list, so we can't answer that. So when it says Y can be less than or equal to 1, then we start at the 1 and go, okay, here's the 1. And since it had an equal sign, we can include it to start with. And then point in the direction of things that could work for Y. And I would point infinitely to the left if that was the only set that we were looking for. But when it's written like this, the values for Y have to meet both criteria. And notice there's this overlap right here, where starting here and going to here, this is the overlap of all the numbers that meet both situations. So from -2 being the smallest, and then +1 being the largest, and if we wrote it in interval notation, we would write it like this, because if it doesn't have an equal sign, it's an empty circle, which means we're using a parenthesis. If it has an equal sign, it's a solid dot, so then you use the bracket here. But they wanted us to list all the elements that met this criteria. So we're saying all the numbers between -2 and 1. So -2 is one of the numbers that works. Has to work for both of these. It has to be bigger than -2 but smaller than 1. So -2 is not going to work because it didn't say that it could be equal to -2. And so it's -2 is the starting point, but we can't include it. But -1 works, and 0 works, and +1 works. So this is the set of numbers, the elements that work for this situation.